Fear not, citizens. Hope has arrived. Because we're back here with the chatter after daily. I'm Mike. Of course, joining me is Ryan. It's been a little bit, Ryan, since we've been here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very good. I'm glad your battle with the vid was a successful one. It's good to see you.
Yes, we won, everybody. I was a little sick, but we're back talking movies. And a lot has happened. I tried to go through the last week or so that we've missed and gather the top stories. It's a lot. So I feel like the biggest one is Lord of the Rings. It's got to be Lord of the Rings, right? Somehow, Aragorn has returned. This is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. Warner Brothers had any investors call, and we've got some updates from Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav. This is what the Hollywood Reporter had to say about that. They said, quote, as Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav declared in his company's earnings call, Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema made a multi-year deal with Embracer Group to make new Lord of the Rings movies. The reveal comes as a precursor times for Warner Brothers, as they are admitting that they had a $2.1 billion loss in quarter four.
Wow.
Yeah, it's bad. Like many studios, the company seems to circle its wagons even tighter around familiar IP, focusing on surefire brands like DC. I don't know if DC counts as a surefire brand just yet, but we'll see. Though there are no scripts yet, one insider suggests to the Hollywood Reporter that Warner Brothers hopes to turn Lord of the Rings into a Star Wars-like franchise. So as you guys in the stream, in the video feed, the replay, the audio guys, you aren't seeing this. On the screen, I have bold words. I have a bad feeling about this. I'll talk about my feelings in a second, Ryan. I want your general thoughts on the revival of the Lord of the Rings franchise.
All right. So when you sent me the notes earlier, I meditated on this. I thought about this. I'm normally, when it comes to announcements like this, I'm not a look before I'm a look before you leap kind of person. I'm not someone to just go knee jerk and be like, that idea sucks, I hate it. Like I'm not that type of person. I try not to be reactionary like that.
Right.
This idea sucks. It has sucked from the very beginning. Even if you take into account, like if you get rid of just like, even if you get rid of the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, it's where else can you go with this story? It's like the entire story was told across the trilogy, and the Hobbit ones, they were stretching it out. Like it was a book. It was supposed to be 2 movies, but they stretched it to 3, and even then, it was pushing it. And Rings of Power, I have not seen, and I'm not going to comment any further on it because I just have not seen it. I just haven't. That's based off of the Silmarillion, which was companion work at best, and it was a companion piece to the main story, and even that was stretching it. So I feel like the desperation is just reeking off of this story. I feel like Warner Brothers are trying to turn ramen noodles and salt into a gourmet meal, and they just can't do that. And so, like I said, I'm normally not the type of person to just be like, what were you thinking? But this is the one exception I'm making of the what were you thinking? Which Warner Bros. Executive wearing a tie a little too tight around his throat thought that this was in any way a good idea. So I don't know. Like I'm just me, and I'm just one person. I am not a fan of this at all.
I'm with you, and it goes back to what you just said, right? Like they're stretching this idea thin because what did I just read? $2.1 billion loss in 1 quarter. That's not for the year. That's for the quarter.
That's 4 months. 4 months of a calendar year.
That's brutal. So of course, news comes out that they want to do Lord of the Rings. And then there was another report. I didn't get a chance to add to the notes, so I don't know if you heard it. They want Peter Jackson to come back.
Of course they do. That
Right.
doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, so like that might be the only way you can make that possibly work, but also they know that if they get Peter Jackson's name on it, fans are more willing to come out and support it. I don't know where you go with this, especially the wording is the thing that I hate the most. I don't know your general thoughts on Star Wars. I am somebody who didn't grow up with it. I watched my first Star Wars movies at 17 years old, right when Force Awakens was coming out. I binged through them all. I love the original trilogy, but Star Wars has stretched itself so thin and has done so many different things that it's diluted the brand. That to this point, I don't even consider myself a Star Wars fan because I feel like I dislike more than I actually do like in this franchise.
Oh,
So
I'm so with you on that. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm
yeah, you're
so
good.
with you. I'm so with you on that. I'm subscribed to a YouTube channel called Star Wars Explained. I'm not sure if you've heard of the channel, but it's actually quite insightful. I mostly subscribe to it because the couple that run it do a complete Star Wars canon timeline on May the 4th for May the 4th be with you, Star Wars Day. And I always watch it every year just to see how big it has gotten. And just how big it has gotten, it is just dizzying. And so when I hear they want to take, even if you take away the trilogy, take the trilogy off the table, take the Hobbit movies off the table, they want to take J.R.R. Tolkien's vision and turn it into like every character has this elaborate backstory.
Yes.
I hate it. I really hate it. It's just a terrible idea. And like I said, the desperation reeks off of this idea so much it ought to be sold as a cologne in the Macy's in the mall near where I live.
Yeah. It makes no sense. And the very wording, Artwinder, thanks for joining us in the chat. Make Lord of the Rings like Star Wars. Yeah, because that worked out the past 10 years. Yeah, it comes to the point where Disney has not made a Star Wars movie since 2019. And there's probably a reason for that, because the sequel trilogy was very divisive and they're trying to slowly gain trust back with the fan base. And yeah, it's I feel like that's a lot of people's sentiment. I'm not saying it's a unique take, but yeah, that's kind of where we are with Star Wars. So when you word it that way, that does not make me excited for more Lord of the Rings. I should be. I love Lord of the Rings. It's some of my favorite books of all time. It's my favorite trilogy of all time. But once you say Star Wars like, I check out, and you already were on thin ice by starting this entire conversation off with, we lost $2 billion. So how are we going to recoup that? Fanboys.
Yeah, and The Hobbit was arguably already pushing it. But I'm a bit of a Hobbit trilogy defender. It's by no means as good as the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's like Lord of the Rings trilogy is here, Hobbit is like way down here. So they're not even in the same ball game. However, I do think that there was effort put forth, and I think when it hit the right notes, it hit those right notes really loud. So I'm a defender of it. But even then, they had to stretch that out to make it a trilogy because The Hobbit is not as big a book as you think. So they had to fake it until they made it, quite literally. And going back to the Star Wars point, and I don't want to make this the Star Wars show, but just to echo what you were saying, I grew up watching Star Wars: The Clone Wars. That was my entry point into it, and then I started with the prequels first, then the OGs. I know I have it backwards, but that was just how it happened. But just the recent, and taking the question of quality aside, the discourse has just become so toxic that you waded to the Star Wars waters. It's like the waters are like there's algae everywhere. There's parts of it that's just on fire. So it's gone from an oasis to like something out of The Last of Us, for lack of a more relevant example. Yes. So I read this article and I cringe. Like, I just actively cringe. This just does not sound good at all.
Not at all. This one story is just the biggest turnoff. It's everything we hate about Hollywood, essentially, is that they ran out of ideas to make money, so they're gonna go and ruin a good thing that they already had. It's unfortunate, but that what's sad is coming out of Warner Brothers, this is not the only story that's kind of surrounding turmoil with them and their IP. We're gonna talk about Dune. I love Dune. Can't wait for part 2 later this year. There was a spinoff that has been in development hell for like a year now. And this is coming from Deadline. We've got a new story. They say, quote, Chernobyl executive producer Joanne Rennick signed on to direct the first 2 episodes and recently has exited the project of Dune, The Sisterhood, the spinoff that was supposed to be on HBO Max. Search is underway for his replacement, and production has been put on hold. Shirley Henderson, who has been tapped as one of the leads, is also leaving the project. Her role as Tula Harkonnen will be recast. This is in addition to creator Diane Ademijan, who had written the pilot script, stepping down as showrunner in the run-up to production, with veteran TV writer and producer Alison Skepar, sorry if I mispronounced that name, becoming sole showrunner on the legendary produced series. So I'm going to back up a little bit. Did you know that there was a Dune spinoff in the works?
No, not until today. I'm genuinely excited for Dune Part 2. I'm so looking forward to that because Dune Part 1 was excellent. I think it was among my favorite movies of 2021. It was certainly in the top 5. I love how Denis Villeneuve approached that, because the flaw with Dune and adaptations in the past, like, I love the David Lynch Dune movie. It's not perfect by any stretch, and it is very weird. Like Sting with his little space thong, and Mark and Kenneth McMillan as Baron Harkonnen just being over the top, being like, "He who controls the spice controls the universe." Like just being very scene-chewingly best right there. And Kyle MacLachlan and Virginia Madsen, and I love it, but it's not perfect. Denis Villeneuve took the right approach. He basically sawed the book in half and basically told the fall of House Atreides, and Dune Part 2 is seemingly going to be the rise of House Atreides on at the back of Paul and shoot, I can't remember Zendaya's character's name. And
Chani.
Her, thank you.
Yeah.
So, and I'm so looking forward to that. This is where because something I just realized, there are more Dune books. Like Frank Herbert wrote them, and then his son Brian took it over and wrote several more. Yeah. From the premises, I haven't read them. The premises don't sound great. Basically, Paul kind of turns into a loser afterwards, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. But maybe I'm just taking it out of context. Just from hearing about it, just the turmoil, I don't know. Number one, I had no idea this was even a thing, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
And number two, I don't know if I would want to see, like, I wouldn't know if I would want to see this unless Rebecca Ferguson comes back as the Lady Jessica, which I doubt that she will. And if she doesn't, then it's kind of like a why bother?
Yeah, I completely agree. I did know that this was in production, and they announced it like a month after Dune came out. And so this has been in production for a while, and I was under the impression that it was going to air on HBO this year, and no, they haven't even finished the season. They're going to go back to square one. It's real shame, honestly, because I was looking forward to exploring the world of Dune, especially since, again, this was one of the things that's not in the quote that I pulled was that the reason that it kind of fell apart is because it's not following Denis' vision, which, in my opinion, at least gives me a little bit of hope that they want it all to be somewhat cohesive. But I don't know. This might be stuck in development hell because I don't know if Warner Brothers has the cash to reshoot everything. That's another issue. We're going to turn back to the chat right quick. Just backpedaling a little bit to the Lord of the Rings talk. Yeah, Sando, thanks for joining us. Happy to have you. The Hobbit films undermine the labor of love that was the Lord of the Rings. I agree. It was lazy, all filmed on a soundstage, and most importantly, did not need to be 3 films. Totally forgettable. That's a fair take because if I'm remembering correctly, The Hobbit is the shortest Lord of the Rings book, right?
Yeah, like I said, it's not as big as people might think. And like I said, I'm a defender. I totally agree with people who don't like it. I just think, like I said, when it does something that I like, I'm going to say something about it. So
Yeah.
I'm not against those who dislike it. I totally agree. But I'm just in the camp that's like, it's flawed, but I don't hate it.
Agreed. Back to the comment section. Sando, thanks again for your next comment. I don't think it's any coincidence that the Dune film ended exactly where the David Lynch Dune jumps in time. That was the good part before it gets questionable. Yeah, that actually is a very interesting point that I didn't think about until you mentioned it. But yeah, they totally did that. That makes a lot of sense, honestly. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so going back to the Dune, the Sisterhood, we'll see. I doubt that this actually makes it past production because they are going to have to find new showrunners. The showrunners quit. The star quit. That to me is the weirdest part of all of this is that they're just dropping like flies over there to the point where all of this was bundled into one news story. It's not like this trickled down one by one. It's like they all walked off at the same time. And that's very, very sad. Okay. Did you have anything else on Lord of the Rings or Dune before we move on to the trailers we were going to talk about?
No, I think we covered everything. One thing that I will say, though, speaking of, is that it's crazy to see because I last weekend I saw Luther: The Fallen Sun. It's going to Netflix March 10th, but it came to my luxury theater. I really enjoyed it. Andy Serkis is the villain in that, and for some strange reason, it's always weird whenever I see him not in motion capture. Whenever I see him in his like I see his actual face, I'm like, who's this dude? And then I realize, oh, that's Andy Serkis, because he's been so long as Gollum and Caesar and he was Snoke, but we won't hold that against him. I mean, the dude has been in mocap for so long that whenever I see him in something like the Batman as Alfred or Ulysses Claw in Black Panther and Avengers: Age of Ultron, like seeing him, just like seeing his face is just always weird to me because it's like he was always known for just this one avenue. But I mean, credit where credit's due, he's one of the best, if not the best, motion capture actor of all time. I mean, you can't think of Gollum without thinking of Andy Serkis.
Yeah, for sure. Andy Serkis is he's very much like a voice actor to where like you know his work, but when you see his actual face, like when you see him IRL, it takes you back for a second. You readjust because it's not like he's a hideous person or anything, but it's like if you hear Tara Strong, right? You're so used to hearing the characters that she plays that it's very strange seeing her actual face and hearing those voices come out of her face. It's always a funny experience, but yeah.
Yeah,
Talking about BVS that doesn't exist. Thank you, Sando.
And a bit of an obscure example. I actually rewatched The Dark Knight Returns, the animated movie that came out in 2012 and 2013 as 2 parts. And Batman voiced in that movie is Peter Weller, aka RoboCop. And I had not seen RoboCop when I first saw The Dark Knight Returns. So when I finally saw RoboCop, I was like, why does that voice sound so familiar? And then I connected the dots from there. It's the same guy who did that epic speech while standing over Superman is the same guy who also said, "Your move, creep." It's like same actor. It's awesome.
That's amazing. Those are some great movies too. I love The Dark Knight Returns. Fantastic.
Yeah, watch the deluxe edition. It's a lot longer because they sandwich the 2 parts together, but it's severely underrated movie from Warner Brothers Animation. They took Frank Miller's vision and did it about as well as you could ever ask for.
I didn't even know there was a deluxe edition, so I'm gonna have to seek that out as soon as the stream is over.
Yeah, please do, because it's really good.
Gotcha. So We got trailer chatter. It's a play on words because welcome to the chatter after. Anyway, we're talking Peter Pan and Wendy. This is a trailer coming from Disney. This is the synopsis that we've got from Disney themselves directly. You guys are watching it on screen. It's muted. It's okay. It's short. Peter Pan and Wendy, a live-action reimagining of the J.M. Barrie novel and the 1953 animated classic will begin streaming on April 28th, exclusively on Disney+. I got a chance to watch this like maybe 20 minutes before we went live, and I didn't expect this to be as good as it was, Ryan. Like, this trailer looks really fun. I'm actually legit excited for this. It looks great. What are your thoughts on Peter Pan and Wendy?
In other avenues, I've been very harsh on the Disney live-action remakes. I mean, there's no shortage of material to roast. I mean, the terrible Beauty and the Beast one we got. I mean, Dan Stevens, what were you thinking? And the horrible Lion King one, which, I mean, great googly moogly, that movie's horrible, but I think we all know that. So I have been notoriously very harsh on these. However, there are a couple of good ones. The Jungle Book one with Jon Favreau directing, that was surprisingly really good. Yeah. And Pete's Dragon, which is severely underrated. And I was not expecting to like it as much as I did, but I did, and it's really good. This is leaning more in the Pete's Dragon Jungle Book side of things, just from this trailer. I didn't think I would like it, but I did. It's surprisingly like a wow, I did not anticipate liking this as much. Now, when the show actually drops, my mind will change. I mean, I've seen great trailers to bad stuff in the past. It's just nature of the beast sometimes. However, just sitting here watching this footage, I mean, I can't lie. It looks really solid.
I love that you referenced Pete's Dragon because I learned this today. This is from Connor Race on Twitter. So thanks, Connor, for pointing this out to me. David Lowery is directing this movie, who also directed Pete's Dragon. So that's why it's got that same feel to it. I'm glad you picked up on that because, yeah, I think for me, it's being unique. It's going for its own take on the Peter Pan story and mythology, which I appreciate. The problem with most of the Disney remakes is that they're shot for shot, like recreations. And I don't think it has enough personality to stand out on its own. If I'm going to watch The Lion King, I'll just watch the original Lion King. The new one adds nothing to that film. Peter Pan, you mentioned Jungle Book. Jungle Book and Cinderella, in my opinion, are two of the examples that say we're going to take the source material and expand on it or put a twist on it and do things slightly different than the original did, which makes them, just as a fan, way more interesting and way more engaging because I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I feel that same energy from Peter Pan and Wendy. I'm kind of sad that this is not going to be released in theaters, even if it was just for like a limited release, like a week, because I honestly think Disney could have made a decent amount of money with this one if they released it in theaters, because it does look great. It looks fun. It's a new take on Peter Pan and Wendy. I'm very excited to check this out, and it's coming out April 28th. That's very soon. Like, this will be here before you know it.
Just under 2 months.
Yes. That wasn't the only trailer that they showed us, though. And so we've got to talk about the Haunted Mansion. That one is interesting. This is one that I forgot was happening. And you mentioned before we went live, you didn't even know it was happening. How you feeling about Haunted Mansion?
So I binged this trailer before we went live. So my thoughts are still very fresh. Mm-hmm. I think this one looks good too. And I live in Florida, so I've been to Disney World a ton of times, and going on the Haunted Mansion is pretty much like a go-to. It's like going on the former Splash Mountain, they're renaming it. Going on the former Splash Mountain, getting a Mickey Premium, and then Haunted Mansion. There's like a certain amount of checklist, bucket list items that you do, at the Orlando Disney World, and Haunted Mansion is one of them, and I've been on it a bunch of times. The only movie-wise thing that we've ever gotten was the Eddie Murphy one, which I don't believe I've ever seen. I've seen clips, but I've heard not so great things. I'm a big fan of Eddie Murphy, but from the general consensus, that just wasn't it. So looking at this trailer, I think it does look surprisingly decent. It's not showing on the screen, it shows it later. I like the homage they did to the ride where you step into the beginning of the ride before you get onto the carts, of how you get into the room and the room goes up and you see the pictures start one way and they get larger and they get darker as you go down. It's just, it's a nice touch, a touch that I did appreciate. And just looking at the cast, you got Rosario Dawson, who I like, Owen Wilson, who I like, Lakeith Stanfield, who I'm becoming a big fan of. He was awesome in Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm happy to see him getting more roles. And Danny DeVito, I mean, we all know who he is. So I like this cast. I think they're nailing down the tone and the look. So I got to give this one a thumbs up.
Yeah. I'm totally there with you. I think this is going to be fantastic, honestly. It just looks so much fun. As somebody who has seen the Eddie Murphy one, as a child, I enjoyed it. As an adult, I have not seen it. It probably sucks. We'll see. But yeah, I'm excited. These two trailers get me really excited for the non MCU Disney stuff, because I'm going to be real. I don't think a lot of people have noticed. Live action Disney hasn't been that great outside of Marvel Star Wars in the last few years. So this gives me a little bit of hope for this year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It feels like especially pre-pandemic in 2020, we got Artemis Fowl, which, I mean, foul is the operative word. That movie was foul. How can the nephew of the great Quint from Jaws be so unimpressive as an actor? I have no idea, but again, that's a whole nother conversation for another time. So it feels like what we're getting with Haunted Mansion and Peter Pan and Wendy, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Now, finished product is going to be a completely different story, but just sitting here on March 2nd, 2023 and reacting to this, I can't lie, it looks good.
Yeah, for sure. Arkwender says, considering its contest is the 90s movie, it won't be the worst thing ever. That's fair. I haven't seen that since 2000 something. I don't know. Let's see. Disney, crap. We need more shit this year. Hurry up, get us Peter Pan and Haunted Mansion.
So I don't think Arkwender is a big fan. Either that or he's being incredibly sarcastic.
Arkwender is always incredibly sarcastic. That's why we love him. So we've got to move on to our final segment. We do this every single Thursday when we're here. We're going to Now Playing. Give me 1 second. Okay. So Now Playing, we've got a few things that we need to talk about. And I think we can start off with Creed. Creed is coming to theaters in a lot of areas. It has already premiered. I got a chance to see it last night. Have you had a chance to see Creed at all, Ryan?
No, I haven't. I'll be seeing it Saturday night, but I'm looking forward to this one. This was among my most anticipated of the year. Having done reviews for both Creeds 1 and 2 and rewatching clips from both, I mean, really, it's just there has been no this series has these being the Creed films have no right to be as good as they are, and yet somehow they are. And it's going to be interesting because seeing the early reviews, I've seen some overwhelmingly positive, I've seen some positive but with some caveats, but it's been mostly positive, which has made me very happy. And I am looking forward to seeing what Michael B. Jordan brings to the table, because I'm a big fan of him as an actor. I've been a big fan of his ever since I saw him in Chronicle. Like he dealt with Josh Trank, so he should get a Nobel Peace Prize just by being in the same room as that jerk. But that's neither here nor there. And then he was awesome in a little movie called Fruitvale Station, and then Black Panther and Creed, and so on and so forth. So I'm a big Michael B. Jordan fan. So I am immensely looking forward to Creed 3.
No spoilers. I'll give my quick thoughts on Creed 3. I loved this movie. Arkwender in the chat, great as always, saying it's going to be good solely on the fact that it uses Jonathan Majors way better than Ant-Man 3. That is almost a fact.
Almost by default.
Yes. So Jonathan Majors is great in this movie, as is Michael B. Jordan. The story is very by the numbers, especially when you consider this as the 9th movie in the Rocky franchise. It doesn't do anything new. It doesn't reinvent the wheel as far as that goes. But Michael's direction style for this film, in my opinion, is one of the highlights. The fights in this movie, when he says that he took anime as an inspiration for this film, I kid you not, there is a Detroit Smash from My Hero Academia in this movie. It is insane how well he was able to use camera movement and different angles and techniques to get close and personal with these two characters and this rivalry between Damien and Adonis. It's beautifully displayed. And again, the story itself is very by the numbers. It's not bad, but you know, it's not going to blow your mind or anything. It's a Rocky movie essentially, and that for me is good enough because I love this franchise. I love these movies, so I think you and everybody listening is going to have a great time if they go see Creed this weekend. If you're into anime, though, Creed is not the only thing you will be watching this weekend. Yeah, that's right. We're going to be talking a little anime because we've got a lot of stuff coming out this week. First up is Attack on Titan, the final season, part 3, half number 1. That's a lot of words. Going to Arkwender right quick in the chat. He says, Michael B. Jordan, great actor, director, and a weeb. I'm so proud of him. He is who we all aspire to be. Indeed. Okay, so Ryan, I know you haven't watched a ton of anime. Are you familiar with Attack on Titan?
I'm mostly there's this YouTuber I follow. His name is Chiseled Adonis. He makes when the NFL season is going, he makes these big like commentary videos of him doing like funny stuff over it, like funny commentary. I'll DM you one of his videos later because he's hysterical. But he makes
Sweet.
Whenever the Tennessee Titans, whenever he's talking about them, he always calls them, we now go to the Tennessee Attack on Titans. So I get that reference. And I now know what a genjutsu is because of him, because whenever a player scores a touchdown but a flag is thrown on a play and it's taken off, the play is dead, he starts going as like, and it's a touchdown for the genjutsu. And it's amazing. But yes, I have heard of Attack on Titan. I have not seen it, obviously, but I've always been interested.
I think you'd actually really like that. It's not incredibly long. I think it's currently at like 86 episodes. It's going to end about 88 episodes. So it's an easy binge. Attack on Titan, part 5.7, Electro Boogaloo. Exactly. So in this season, I'm keeping it mainly spoiler free. Attack on Titan returns for the final season. Aaron, will try and rid the world of hatred once and for all. Will the Titans fall? Or will this be the end of humanity as we know it? It is airing tomorrow, March 3rd, Crunchyroll and Hulu. If you're caught up, watch it. If you're not caught up, start it. Attack on Titan is legit one of the best anime I have ever seen. Got a comment here from Sando. I like anime as an art form. I respect it. However, I think story-wise, things maybe get lost in translation because the dialogue is so infantile. Plus, Dragon Ball Z made me bitter. Too much waiting around. Attack on Titan has no waiting around, and the story actually translates very well. So if you haven't seen it, I think you might really dig that. If your main experience is Dragon Ball Z, a lot of new age anime is not like that. They actually get to the point and they actually develop seasonal storytelling. So they take a year off to let the manga catch up. So give anime a chance. Go check out the Amateur Otaku. We talk anime every week. We have videos about how to get into anime. You'll enjoy it. But if anime is not your speed, Mandalorian. Have you seen this week's episode, Ryan?
Yes, I have. And actually, just a bit of a cheap plug for something I did. I was on the YouTube channel T3 Media Studios, and I reviewed the first episode with Chris over there, who runs that channel. And we both got up at 3 a.m. to watch the premiere. I was dead tired yesterday, but I did it. Mm-hmm. And overall, I thought it was good. I thought it was a nice return back to where it left off. I did have some problems with it, especially in the sense that I felt like if people didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, and just the fact that you saw Luke Skywalker carry out Baby Yoda, and then all of a sudden it's like they're reunited again, I feel like some people who didn't watch Book of Boba Fett is just going to go, what did I miss here? And so overall, I think there are story threads that the seeds have been planted. And I feel like over the next few episodes, it's going to, like, you're going to add your water, you're going to add your sunshine, and then hopefully it's going to yield a harvest. So I am optimistic. The first episode was pretty good, but it wasn't perfect. However, I am optimistic.
That's good to hear that you're optimistic. I checked out of Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. Again, like I said, I like certain movies and certain stories in the Star Wars universe. They, by and large, just don't do anything for me personally. So I'm just going to wait and see. Take you and Arkwinder's opinion into consideration, because he says in the comments, not going to lie, Mando Season 3 didn't win me over. It's pretty silly stuff, even more so than the first two. And as someone who hasn't seen it yet, that's just going to have me waiting, because there's plenty of other stuff this month for me to watch. So I'll come back, when there's 4 or 5 episodes out and check it out or see where you guys are at with the show. There are a lot of shows debuting this week. So many of them on so many different platforms, especially with Creed hitting theaters. But this is one that I got a screener for, and it's called Daisy Jones and the Six. This is on Prime Video. This is a brief synopsis for it. In 1977, Daisy Jones and the Six were on top of the world. The band had risen from obscurity to fame, and then after a sold-out show at Chicago's Soldier Field, they called it quits. Now, decades later, the band members agree to reveal the truth. This is a good show. I'm not going to get into specifics because I binged the series, so I don't want to get my wires crossed and accidentally spoil anything. But if you want to check out a non-superhero Star Wars action-related thing this week, definitely check out the first couple episodes on Prime Video. A musical dramedy, if you will. Not a musical as in it's song and dance, but musical as in it's about music. I should word that a little bit better for you guys. I'm very excited for you guys to check it out. Have you heard about this show before today, Ryan? Because Prime Video is terrible at marketing.
Yeah, I've actually, on other shows that I do, I have heard of this show and I've seen some good reviews for it. Is this show a mockumentary?
Kind of.
Because I was getting that vibe because I was like, Daisy Jones in this. Wait, is this like a biopic? And I was like thinking about it in my head, and it was like, is this a biopic? It turns out no, it's actually fiction. But it does look good. I mean, it's and like you said, Prime is not the best. Like they advertise more in movie theaters than they do anywhere else because like before every movie that I see in my local theater anyway, they get these long videos that basically say turn your phone off. So I don't know if it's just me or if any of you watching experience that. But just looking at the footage here, I mean, it does look intriguing at the very least. Like I'm a fan. Like this looks like it takes. Is this taking place like 60s, 70s?
This is taking place in 1977.
Okay, then that was like I love like I'm kind of an old soul when it comes to music. I love listening to like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s music up to like today's stuff, which outside of like a couple of things I just disregard entirely. But that 60s and 70s music I grew up listening to. My dad grew up like introduced me to a lot of that stuff. When I first saw this, I was thinking to myself, wow, this is not the Stevie Nicks biopic I was expecting, but all right. But just looking at this, it does look interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is. If you guys think it looks good, check it out. If you like the description, definitely think it's worth watching. Art Wender already said that he's tempted to check out the show because it sounds interesting, which is cool. Also, Tando, if you do check out Attack on Titan, we're here doing this specific show on Thursdays. Come back, let us know what you think. If you like it, dislike it, I'm very interested to see how you feel because Castlevania didn't do it for me either. So I kind of agree with you. We're probably in the very small minority, though. Last theatrical, major theatrical release for this week, and then we're going to call this a show, guys. It's Demon Slayer to the Swordsmith Village. This is an interesting one because unlike Mugen Train a couple years ago or Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, this Demon Slayer presentation is taking the season finale of the Entertainment District arc and the first episode of the Swordsmith arc and smashing them together to make a 2-hour event for Demon Slayer fans. This is basically made for me because I haven't finished the Entertainment District arc. So all of this is going to be new information for me. If you guys like Demon Slayer, check it out. Over at the Amateur Otaku, we're going to be talking about Demon Slayer Sunday night. Join us there for the live stream. And then Wednesday night, we're going to be talking Attack on Titan. Again, another live stream. Make sure you join us over there on that channel talking anime. Again, I know you're not too big on anime. Have you heard of Demon Slayer? Does it interest you at all? Or have you seen anything from it?
Yes, I have. I heard of it. It was crazy to think that like Demon Slayer Mugen Train actually got as much traction as it did. I remember hearing about it and just being like, "Whoa, that one got a lot more attention than I thought it did." So I know what it is. I obviously haven't seen it, but I am definitely intrigued. I mean, I did see Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, and I really enjoyed that. So maybe I'm maybe I'm slowly coming around.
If you liked Jujutsu Kaisen, I think you would enjoy Demon Slayer. Don't watch the movies. You wouldn't be able to follow those. Just start with the first episode of the show. Much like Art Wender, again, sarcasm is turned up to 1,000. Be right back. I must binge the whole show so I can watch this movie. If you can't binge it in time, Demon Slayer episode 1 was going to air April 9th on Crunchyroll, Hulu, Funimation, wherever you're watching your anime. But yeah, It's great. Big brain. Release a movie in a pandemic so it doesn't have contest and make unlimited money. That was kind of the play, and honestly, it worked out well for them. Good job for everybody in the Demon Slayer team. It was a great movie though. I love Mugen Train. Demon Slayer is an Attack on Titan, for those who are unaware, are TVMA anime. Do not show them to your children. Go watch something a little bit more lighthearted if that's what you're going for, because they are very intense war battle stories. That's it for the now playing segment of the show. Was there any other news or tidbits you wanted to talk about, Ryan?
No, I think we covered just about everything. I mean, March is just it's going to be a busy month. Like Eric Davis, who's like who is a big follow in the film Twitter space. He released like a rough calendar. I'm just looking at it like, whoa, like we are going to be busy. So definitely something for everyone this month.
Yes, the now playing segment is going to just get longer and longer as the year goes on, because each month just gets more and more crazy as we go. But it's fun talking to him. We may have to start cutting some news stories for the sake of time. Guys, if you enjoyed this live stream and this video, make sure you give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube. Make sure you listen to us in the podcast feed. You can take us on the go. The live streams are there the very next day. So if you're listening to us on Friday, you could have been here with us on Thursday night, talking movies, talking shows. Check out the Amateur Otaku podcast. That's where we talk anime. If you want more Demon Slayer, if you want more Attack on Titan, check us out there. Also, here we're doing Beyond the Clickers, talking The Last of Us every single Tuesday. And Ryan, you're going to be there with us for that finale. So can't wait to hear your thoughts on The Last of Us once we get there. It's been a blast. Thank you to Arkwinder in the comments. Thank you to Sando for joining us. It's been a blast talking with you guys. Ryan, where can people find you?
I can be found Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, or RyanCam20. Then there's, of course, my YouTube channel just called Ryan Cam. Coming up this week, I'm going to be reviewing Creed 3, and also I'm going to be reviewing Operation Fortune, the new Guy Ritchie movie. We're getting 2 Guy Ritchie movies this year, that and The Contractor, which I was not expecting. Like I'm spoiled as a Guy Ritchie fan this year. Not 1 but 2 movies of his. That's going to be a good time. So I will definitely be reviewing both of those. And then starting this Sunday is going to be my road to John Wick Chapter 4. I'm going to be reviewing all of the John Wick movies that have been released so far. I just recently rewatched John Wick Chapter 1. It's crazy to think how far these movies have come since that first one is like just enough story to like give John Wick a reason to step back into this world, and then we're off to the races from there. It almost feels like 2 and 3 are almost completely separate from the first one. The only thing connecting the 2 is John Wick, and that's pretty much it. Because like the first one is like this, in another world, is this isolated revenge story where he walks away into retirement. But in this timeline, it's like, no, John Wick does not rest. It's the world against John Wick, and I do not like the world's odds. So it's going to be interesting to revisit those movies, and that first video will be dropping on this coming Sunday. And so if you have not checked me out, please do.
Perfect. All of Ryan's stuff is linked in the description. And another plug, Brandon, co-host here on the channel, had a chance to interview the producers of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. It's a great show. Go check it out. That's a great conversation that they had about the creation, the anime influences, the Spider-Verse influences in the DNA of that new Marvel animated series. Definitely worth your time. John Wick kills everyone. Yes, it's amazing.
Bold take, Sandow. Very bold take indeed. Let's see what happens.
Another take. I can't confirm or deny this. I need you to chime in, Ryan. How they wrote out Cara Dune apparently made Arkwinder laugh so hard his sides hurt.
Basically, the High Magistrate and Mando are having a conversation, and Mando's like, "What happened to Cara Dune?" And High Magistrate's like, "Well, after she brought about the High Inquisitor, like basically one line, and she's out of there." So I do not want to wade into the swamp that is the Gina Carano situation. Believe me, that's just that's a can of worms I want to remain firmly closed for a very long time. But I do agree with Arcwinder. Like I said, I like the episode. I do, and I'm optimistic for the season. But when I heard that, I was like, wait a minute. I thought it was just weird. It felt like it took me out of it completely.
That is amazing, honestly. Actually, I need to see this happen now. That's so funny. Guys, again, thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And as always, keep watching movies, keep watching shows, and you know what? Keep watching anime. Peace.